What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. Now, for today's video, we're going to talk about 1984's Night of the Comet, written and directed by Tom Eberhardt. Now, first and foremost, I gotta say, I think this is one of the more underrated horror flicks that come out of the 80s. If you've seen this movie before, let me know in the comments if you think it's underrated. And if you've never heard of this before, I rest my case. Now, I gotta say, I absolutely love this film. It is so much fun. So if you've never seen this before, it is currently free on Tubi and YouTube, in HD actually. So you have no excuse to go check it out. Go check it out right now. Come back to my review and see what I gotta say about it. Anyways, I'll give you a bit of a plot. This pretty much follows where a giant comet, like you couldn't guess, Night of the Comet, is gonna come hit Earth. It's the same size comet that wiped out the dinosaurs. And I hate to always go back on like this place in time, like when COVID was really bad. I know it's still around, but like 2020, but I can't help but feel like this reminds me a lot of when COVID was around, because in the narration, the opening credits, they're explaining this was the biggest comet about to hit Earth. We warned everybody. All these scientists are saying this. They said, but the Americans didn't take it seriously. And then it just cuts to like 80s music, everybody in the streets partying like it's New Year's Eve. They're selling merchandise. I seen the comet, all this. And it really reminded me of that time where how stubborn some people would be, right or wrong about the situation of COVID, of just like people, screw this. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm going in public when like lives could be in danger. And that's exactly how this movie starts out. With that being said, I gotta introduce you guys to the two lead characters. They're two sisters. We got Reggie, the older sister, and Sam, her younger sister. So, pretty much the comet wipes everybody the fuck out overnight, except for these two sisters. And how that happens is, before all that, we cut back to Reggie, where we show where she works at a movie theater, and she's sitting here playing this arcade game, and she has to get her name on the top 10 list. Every name. She finds one name, like number 7 or number 8. Who the fuck is this, she says. Remember that for later. But anyways, she goes up into like where the projector is with her boyfriend, and they get jiggy with it up there, And as he leaves, she stays, and that's when the comet hits, and she somehow survives like a bomb shelter in the movie area. Hopefully, all those reels survive too. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, if the film survived. And then we got her younger sister at the same time, which they're kind of bouncing back in the first act, where she gets into a fight with her stepmom, where we establish their dad together is like a military dad, and they both hate her stepmom. The stepmom punches her right in the face, which I haven't seen this in about a year or so, and I forgot about that. Kind of threw me off. So Sam runs away from home and hides out in like a tin shed that like held like lawn equipment or something. So that's how she survives. So pretty much where this movie goes at this point, the whole plot of the movie is isolation of these two sisters meeting up and realizing they're the last two people alive in Los Angeles, California, while everybody is turned into dust through the whole town. And they meet up back at the house, and this is at the point where Reggie has seen a lot. Like in the beginning scenes, when her boyfriend goes outside, the zombie attacks him and kills him with a wrench. She comes out, sees the zombie, starts fighting him off. And something right off the bat I want to mention I really like about this movie is Reg is a badass. I mean, she's not like Sigourney Weaver badass, but she's like, she warns the zombie. She thinks he's like a crackhead or something. You take another step towards me. You take another step towards me. She fucking knees him right in the dick, punches him right in or palm strikes him right in the nose, takes him down. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense because of the military background. But with that being said, I'm just a fan of like, especially in the 80s, 70s, or 80s, like women like fighting back in horror movies, not being like the damsel in distress. Because, come on, push or shove, you're going to fight back. She jumps on the motorcycle, which is on the cover, that she magically knows how to ride. Looks like a fucking badass driving through the city. Meets up with her younger sister, Sam. And I must say, Sam does a really good job in this. I believe she was just turned 18 when they filmed this. She does a very good job of being naive. She's dressed up in her cheerleading outfit, cute as can be, and Reggie's telling her everybody's dead, everyone's gone, and Sam thinks everything's fine. She's kind of like an airhead in a way. And Reg goes, walk outside. Let's see. You see all these clothes with dust. Which, fun fact, the way they made the dust was taking bricks and breaking them down, so the dust is just orange dust like you see on the cover, which at the same time the whole sky is lit up all orange. It looks fucking awesome, which is unbelievable. Looks great. And Sam is kind of like upset about this, kind of disturbed. Like she walks inside because Reg is saying, well, like, if you think everyone's alive, where are all the kids? It's Saturday. I like logic in a film. sometimes I twist it too far where like there'll be a movie with like a weird fucking plot and I'll be like, well, why didn't you do that? We all do that as movie fans. But the fact that like maybe before the circumstance of something being too absurd, besides like one zombie we see or a comet, which a comet isn't two, I digress. Where are the kids? It's Saturday. They should be out playing. Makes fucking sense. Sam's upset about it. They realize they're the last people on Earth. Ain't that a motherfucking bitch? They turn on the radio. They're trying to just cope. They hear a voice on the radio. Someone's alive. So they head to the radio station, and it's just a recording. Nobody's there. So in this time, Sam starts fucking around with the radio equipment, which is like a little fun part of the movie. And this is where we meet our third character, which I absolutely love this dude, Hector. This guy's such a fun character. He comes in with a gun saying he has to check them to make sure they're not zombies. I'm a truck driver. Everything's going crazy. They make sure everything's all right. And Reggie slowly has like a love interest in this guy very quickly. And Sam apparently likes him too. So as Reg and Hector spend the night together, this shows like an ongoing thing with Sam, which I like. Like again, I like the realism. I like when people are actually scared in a situation. Like there's a time to fight and there's a time to run. And she's just depressed that the world is over. She's upset that her sister's in there with this guy and she's left alone. And this is where she starts having these nightmares and everything of like these zombie cops pulling her over. And they do like something fun. They do like a double dream psych out where she has a dream, she wakes up, everything's fine, and then another dream, and you think it's reality, then it pops you back a second time. So they got me on that. Hector leaves. He's got to go look for his family. They say everybody's dead. He's just got to know for sure. So he takes off to go see if his mom's still alive. At this point, we have Sam and Reggie just kind of like upset with herself. Sam says, there's only one guy left on Earth that I liked, and you had to take him. They play their roles so good in this, especially like as a duo, because Reg is the more stern one, and like I said, Sam is like such a valley girl in this. But in the setting, the 80s, it's just so fun to see because you don't really see somebody as bubbly and as much of a valley girl like this in horror movies, which I must mention, this is a bit slapstick to an extent. This is a pretty fun movie. This is one you could throw on with some friends. But anyways, this is one of my favorite parts in the whole movie, where Reg is like, you know what, that they apologize, they have a talk, which is kind of a fun moment, deep moment. And she says, I know it'll make you feel better. Cue Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper. Now that is like my guilty pleasure. I love 80s music, and that song, it's a pop hit. It just gets me going. And sometimes I'm like, well, I can't really groove to this because I'm not a girl having fun. But I'm, damn it, I support Girls Just Want to Have Fun. So I will love the song to death. And it just shows them reminiscent to Dawn of the Dead, which was like my favorite scene as a kid. Like when they were in the shopping mall by themselves. Like, because who wouldn't want to do that? Have a mall to yourself. Nowadays, an Amazon warehouse to yourself, right? But they're just jumping around in these fur coats, putting on makeup, getting jewelry, just all this shit. And it's just a really just fun scene. Just makes you smile. And it really pulls you away from the grim context of the conversation they just had, which is kind of like a push-pull kind of scenario, which works out really well in this film. Then they run into these thugs that have taken over the mall. They're like these clerk boys. They fight them off with the Uzis and everything, which is a fun part. No, they have Mac 10s. It shows them earlier. They're shooting up these cars, getting gun practice. And like I said, they have a military dad. They're shooting these Mac 10s in this car. And one of my favorite lines in the whole movie from Sam, she's like having problems reloading the gun. She goes, huh, Daddy would have bought us Uzis, and walks away. I love that. I love it. So they fend off these dudes in the mall. There's not much to say about it. It's a pretty fun action sequence and everything. It goes on for about 15-20 minutes, maybe too long. It's pretty much the whole second act until these scientists that keep popping up throughout the movie come and grip them up, and they think they're rescued. They take Reggie with them because she's fine, and Sam was breaking down hives, but they thought she caught the virus or something, so they leave her behind to kill her. And in this time, Hector went back to his house and found that everyone's gone. And a little zombie kid chases him. He takes off. And then we don't really see from him after that. So we have a point where the scientist who's been kind of against this operation the whole time shoots Sam up and kills her. And then you go back to the radio studio, the radio place, and that's where Hector comes back to find them. He's dressed up like Santa Claus, excited to see everybody. And the scientist is there. She's got sunglasses on, and she explains everything to him, what's going on, how pretty much the scientists in this lab exposed themselves to the dust or the chemicals of the comet, and they're all infected, and they were trying to find a cure. So they were using these healthy people's blood as experimental shit to cure themselves and kill their victims. And she tells him the whole thing. That's what she's been against. She tells him, I got this paper up on the desk. It explains everything. And then she just fucking injects herself and kills herself right there. Pretty brutal. It's always pretty, like, rough when you see somebody commit suicide, like, in a movie. Like, but fuck, man, that's kind of like what makes this movie charming. It can take you from high and lows, like, pretty quick. So we cut back to Reggie, who's, like, in the science lab. It reminds me of, like, where they had them held hostage in, like, Halloween 3. And this guy, the shady guy, keeps asking questions. She doesn't want to answer. Where's my sister? Where's my sister? They got these two little kids lined up, ready to kill them. And the scientist walks out and says, your sister's dead. And Reggie's like, fuck this place. She's going to escape. She sees that these two kids are about to be killed, so she comes up with this plan. Once again, like a totally unrealistic way to escape. She busts out of this place, takes these kids, gets them out of there, got them by gunpoint or some shit like that. Not really sure. I don't remember exactly the details of it. I watched this last week. She takes the two kids with them, which a fun scene. The two nurses that were going to kill the kids, they said, which is fucked up. The nurse was about to kill the kid, and she goes, oh, don't think of the laughing gas as bad. Just think you're going to go live with Santa Claus on the North Pole forever. And when Reggie sees them originally, the little girl tells him, she says, we're going to see Santa Claus forever. Reggie's like, you guys are fucked up. Takes them out. When the scientists find that room, the kids and Reggie have escaped. And I love this part in the movie. Both the scientists are down with laughing gas attached to their face, and they're just hysterically laughing like the Joker would or something. I thought that was kind of a cool touch. And probably one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, Hector rolls up in like a fucking sports car convertible, and he's in a full cowboy suit with a cowboy hat, and he's talking to the guard. He's like, nice day out here, partner. And he's talking like that, and he's just totally like hamming it up. And he goes, he's pretty much like offering a girl in the trunk. I got a girl in the trunk, like apocalyptic shit. Who knows what this guard was wanting to do with the girl? And he goes, she's dead. She's laying in there dead, Sam. He leans in. Oh, he goes, she's dead. Hector goes, she ain't dead. He leans into his Inspector. Sam just like makes this like sound. She goes, ah, grabs his head, pulls him in. Hector smashes the trunk on his head. I love that. Fun little simple sequence. Keep it simple, stupid. As I was always taught. KISS. If you want success in like film and just any entertainment, keep it simple. It works. So I love how they ambush the scientist. And in this meantime, Hector's hooking up all these C4s and shit underneath the scientists' cars and everything. They get everybody in the car, including the two kids and Sam. They all go to ride away. The scientists are chasing after them. And I love this part. They stop, and Hector's like, fuck you. And they're like, what are you doing? He goes, just wait. Boom, boom. Hits the ignition. Blows everybody up. Huge explosions. So we get a little action in this. This movie's got a little horror, a little comedy, a little thriller, a little science fiction, a little action. This movie's got it all, you guys. So I absolutely love that. They take out all the scientists. They get the fuck out of there. There's a couple jump scares and shit. These kids are acting scared like they should be, but they're being fun. They get them the fuck out of there. And then we cut to some time in the future. Which I must backpedal and mention that the scientist, when she gave Hector all the information, said she said she only shot Sam up with like a sedative that would put her out for a minute to trick the other scientist to think she killed her so he would leave. So she actually saved her life, which was pretty honorable. I like that scientist, the woman scientist, and she was pretty badass. But anyways, this cuts to like sometime later, and you got Reg and Hector. They're acting like a married couple, and they got the two kids, and they're all dressed up in suits, and they're kind of like talking like you would back in the 60s. Like, she's taking pictures, like fixing their hair with her spit and everything, like back in the day. And Sam's just walking around lonely as fuck. She's so sad. In the sports, and they're hitting the crosswalk at the end. And Sam's like, why are you waiting for the crosswalk? It's the end of the world. There's nobody here. And Reg has a whole different talking voice, like I said. She's like, well, we wouldn't want to teach them bad habits. She kind of sounds like the creepy aunt in like Sleepaway Camp. We want to teach them the right way. And then as Sam goes across the street, this fucking Mercedes drives by and almost hits her. And then he just screeches back. And he goes, what are you doing crossing without the crosswalk? And it's this young, good-looking guy, and he's like talking to her, and she's just like hearts in her eyes. She looks up at this guy and thinks she says, thank you. He goes, what? She goes, nothing. She goes, that's a very nice car you have. He goes, thanks, I have 17 of them or something. He names a certain amount. And he goes, you want to go for a ride? Sure. So she found her guy finally, and they both played off so well. They look so happy, and they go to leave. And it kind of a callback to the beginning too. She's going to leave, and Reg is like acting like the mother now. She's like, "Be back by this time," and they're like, "What a drag," you know. And then they take off. And my one of my favorite parts in the movie, when the car peels off, it has the three initials that were in the arcade game in the beginning when Reg was pissed that somebody beat one of her high scores. And it was the same guy. That was such a fun Easter egg. And even the way they shot this with the opening credits, the car peels off and the camera just pans back. And they start playing football, playing catch. Hector and the boy in the row, and they're all kind of like the family, and the credits start rolling. Great 80s music hit. Film. What a fucking great movie. You guys, I rambled long enough about this. I didn't know if I could get the right words off. Oh, and I almost forgot. This is something I definitely want to mention, you guys. So, the mall that they filmed this scene in when they were like taking all the fur coats and all the shit and they got held hostage is apparently a mall. I forget the name. I don't have it written down. It's a mall that they used for filming a lot back in the day, like in California. And a fun fact was, what was the big movie that was filmed in there? Well, I know they used them all in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Chopping Mall, which means that would have Kelly Moraney starring in 3 different movies in that same mall. So, like, what are the odds of that? I think that's pretty cool. But anyways, fun movie here. Like I said, this has a little bit of each genre you could imagine in this film. This is a movie you could throw on with your friends and just casually watch it, especially if you're familiar with it. It could just be on in the background. I think the setting was absolutely amazing. I don't know how they got LA so empty, and the way the sky was just completely orange like it is on the cover was a really good touch. It looked absolutely amazing. It felt desperate, isolated. You felt alone watching the movie. You felt for the characters. Now, they could be relatable. The characters are absolutely amazing. They could be relatable. They can make you feel for them. They could kick some ass. They could be sad. They could be scared. This movie kind of is like a buffet of every range you could have in a film. Though this could be considered more sci-fi than horror, I consider this one of my favorite horror flicks. This is a hidden gem in horror. And the soundtrack is so good. I found myself getting the soundtrack on Spotify and just listening to this at work. It's unbelievable. And the setting, this really gives you the feel of the 80s, which I'm a huge fan of the 80s. Any film to come out of the 80s. I'd say the only gripe I would have about this film is also a compliment to it. I would have liked there to be more zombies. You only really see a zombie in a couple opening scenes and a dream sequence. But what makes that kind of fun is they fight off 3 different kind of enemies in this film. So the first act, you see the zombies. The second act in the mall, you see like these thugs in the mall. And the third act is like the crazy scientists. So in that sense, I like where it went with that. But as a zombie fan, I would have just loved zombies chasing them around, or at least being a little more aggressive in it. You know what I mean? This felt like The Fog, where they're barely showing up or slow as hell. But anyways, you guys, this movie's absolutely amazing. I would suggest picking up this Blu-ray from Scream Factory. It's got a lot of commentary tracks on here, some really good special features. But at the same time, if you're familiar with Scream Factory, Shout Factory, you know this is probably going to be released on 4K soon. You got to be careful with those Scream Factory releases because they just keep pumping them out, re-releasing them on 4K. And if you guys are like me, I can't afford to, nor do I want to, just keep upgrading everything to 4K. Not every movie's going to look the best in 4K. Some shit looks better grainier. That's why you play a fucking Nintendo on an old TV, not a HD. But I digress once again. Either way, I can't suggest this movie enough. I hope everybody will check this one out. It's just fun. This movie has so much charm to it. It flows good. It's just a fun ride from start to finish. So other than that, let me know in the comments if you've seen this. If you haven't, if you got any horror movie suggestions for me to check out in my next review. Hopefully everybody's having a really good weekend. Other than that, blood, guts, gore. I'll check you guys next time.